Hey there, my friends. It's Dr. Anthony Balduzzi, and I want to welcome you back to another episode here on the Fit Father Project podcast. Today, we're joined by Fit Father Bill Powell, who's truly an amazing guy who I look up to in many ways. And one of the reasons I look up to Bill is that he's in his 60s, and he had every reason with his past medical history and stuff was going on to follow the path of most guys, which is kind of just to resign themselves to a life of lessening health, and the fact that he had a bad heart, the fact that he had cancer and all these different obstacles that would derail, I would say, a lesser man, a man who didn't have the deep commitment that Bill has. But that was not Bill's story. Bill's story is one of triumph, of getting this program and joining it and not starting it the first time around. It took Bill a while to get up and going and to get really committed. But once Bill got his head right about this program, the results he's achieved so far at 63 are absolutely fantastic. He's lost over 50 pounds. And now Bill is really looking into, you could say, his golden years. I mean, his career is winding down, and now he's looking to do a lot of adventures that we're going to share and talk about in this podcast. I won't really steal the thunder for that, but I think this is a really prime example of a guy who would tell you straight up that it's not that Bill was special that he got this program. He had the same negative self-talk. He had the same excuses. But through a series of events, he finally got his mind right and got committed to this program. And he used podcasts just like this in his early stages to get and find his motivation. So talk about full circle now to be able to come back and now be the inspiration for future guys. So if you're listening to this and you're just new or fresh in the program, or if you're restarting like Bill was, this is the stage that he was at. And look, he's succeeded. He made it through this, and it's not without challenge, but there's a lot of triumph here. And so I'm really excited about this episode. And I also had the privilege of meeting Bill in person at one of our Fit Father Project Sedona retreats. So I've got to hug this man. I've got to see this man in person. I've got to do outdoor adventures with him. So it's really a privilege to be able to bring this conversation to our brotherhood. And Bill, as you're listening to this, congratulations again. And thank you for being an amazing Fit Father. Let's get into today's episode with Fit Father Bill Powell. All right, Bill, welcome officially to the Fit Father Project podcast, my friend. I'm so happy to have you here.
It's great to be here.
So let's kick it off in normal standard fashion. I'd love for you to introduce yourself to all the guys and certainly some of the gals who are listening, your name, your age, where you're from, and anything you'd like to share about work and your family.
Sure. My name is Bill Powell. I am from Martinsburg, West by God, Virginia. I am 63 years old. I have a beautiful wife, my college sweetheart of 37 years. We have 3 grown sons, all on their own, making their own money and not living at home. So it's an outstanding life, and as far as that's concerned. I'm a lawyer by trade. I have done that for 38 years. Hopefully soon to be a retired lawyer. And, I think that's the next phase.
Nice. That's really cool. And so what prompted you to find FFP? How many years ago was it? And let's talk about what was going on in your life that made you be like, I think I need a health and fitness program.
Yeah, this is a little more comprehensive answer. I was in FFP. I first found it a few years ago. I can't remember exactly what date it was, but it was just one of those things that popped up. I had tried pretty much every diet at that point, and I looked at FFP, and I actually became a life member pretty early on because it looked good. And then I did the first workout, and I said, well, this is way too hard. So I quit this, because I was looking for, at that time, I was really looking for the easy button. I can go on a diet that I can eat steak all day, every day, and, do all that stuff. Sounds much easier. And, lo and behold, I find out, obviously, those are just fads. And even if they worked, it was very short term and not sustainable. And then I had what I kind of have described as a cascade of really important things in my life that just turned me totally around. And I had gotten a job. First of all, I got a job. I never liked taking pictures of myself. I never liked myself in pictures. I didn't like the way I looked.
Yeah.
But I got a job where all of a sudden it was on TV a good bit and doing interviews and other things. And, I look at myself on the TV. I'm like, oh my God, who is that? And my wife, she's being very loving. She goes, well, PB adds 10 pounds to you. I said, well, I don't think it adds 50 pounds to you. Something that's way, way worse than I thought I looked. And then some health issues started coming up. I was diagnosed with melanoma, which required some significant surgeries. Luckily, that's, I think, cured. I'm five years cancer-free now, which is really good. But that was a wake-up call. And then just a few short months later, I had a heart issue, which all of a sudden my heart was like, 40 beats a minute. And I'm trying to figure out, well, I'm not a runner. I'm not a marathon runner from Kenya.
Yeah.
So this doesn't seem right. And I went to the doctor and I thought, okay, they just give me a pill or something and said, or something's wrong. And they didn't let me leave the hospital. I mean, they said, no, you're going right now. And I was there for more than a week. And I coded while I was there. It was a pretty serious time, but I got a pacemaker and I'm better as a result. That certainly turned my life around. And then right on top of that, I lost a job that I just loved. It was just a matter of transition. It wasn't anything I did, but it was just one of those things that I transitioned out of the job and I loved the job and I had to find a new job and I was off like 8 weeks. And I will say that at that time, I was really pretty low about a lot of things health-wise. And I was convinced that if I went to the doctor, they would put me on antidepressants. It was that, I mean, I was drinking in the afternoon. I was not doing anything productive. I knew I had to find a job, but I was just very down. And I started doing some research and found, exercise. Well, that raises endorphins and maybe I could try some of that. And then I found FFP again and I started it. But I also got into some really deep analysis of myself because some kind of really self-control or self-reflection on my life because, I was in my 60s at that point.
Yeah. I
had a grandchild and I'm thinking to myself, well, what do you have control over? You clearly don't have control over your DNA, your heart. It wasn't a cholesterol thing. It was an electrical thing. I didn't have control over that. I don't have any control over the cancer. I don't have control over what happened yesterday. I don't have control over a lot of things, and most of us don't. But I do have control over what I do with my body and what I put in my mouth. And I'm trying to think, and I was thinking to myself, again, I'm not trying to be morbid here, but I'm thinking one thing we have that goes away every single day and I can't renew is time.
Yeah.
What am I trading my time for? What am I doing with it? Is it productive? Is it important? Or am I like surfing the internet or watching TV or doing something stupid? And it's time I'll never get back. So it led some really deep reflections about what was important, what I should be trading my valuable and ending, slowly ending time. And again, I'm not trying to be morbid about that, but that's a fact. If I had the ability to give time back to people, it would be for a lot of money.
Yeah.
They would pay a lot of money for time, but you can't do it. You can never do it.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty powerful. It almost like coming back to the same program with renewed clarity, new eyes and new feeling because of the heaviness of the real experiences that you had, that thankfully all of those, cancer, near heart failure, like all of that could have been like devastating, but like these were like misses. And now you're here, and I'll just kind of fast forward. The story has a happy ending. Bill has a lot of vitality and a lot of things to look forward to. So I think it's going to be really cool for you to contrast the fact that you felt like maybe you were not using your time productively, and now I know that you feel like you have new life. So what was it like starting the program? We'll call like the second time in earnest. Like, walk me through the beginning stages. It could be first 30 days of FF30X, but that initial period of getting your gears turning and cranking, what was apparent to you that was like really life-changing in the program and some of the deep stuff in those early periods?
Well, first of all, your program is great. The nutrition advice is sound. It's not crazy. I'll be honest with you, you're a doctor, but nutritional science over the last, 3 or 4 decades, I mean, it's been as contradictory as anything I've ever seen.
Sure.
It's bizarre. But yours made sense. It was sustainable. There wasn't anything off limits. That was really important to me. And, I'm not going to lie. I mean, like everybody else, first month was hard. I mean, the exercise was hard, but I busted through it. I will also say the thing that really kickstarted me in the butt, I started listening to those podcasts early and I first started walking and doing other things. And guys like Werner and Chris Vincent and Ron Keatsman, those guys were they were inspiring to me because they were just like me. I mean, they were, quite frankly, I never really thought about it. I always thought I was like, I don't know what I thought I was special, but my problems were any different than anybody else's. But the fact was that I found guys that were similar to me, had the same struggles, had the same issues, and they were successful. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I can do this because they did it. I know I can do this. And because I can be, as my wife would tell you, once I'm onto something, I'm like a dog with a bone. I am obsessive about it, and I will, and so I'm very dedicated. Once I get into it, I'm into it.
Well, I think a lot of guys can relate to that kind of mentality. Like once you really commit, sink your teeth in, so to speak. I'm sure that served you really well in your legal career, like getting deep into a case, and you found a way to effectively get yourself like very motivated. So how much exercise did you do in the initial 30 days with like Apex and stuff like that? Like how deep did you go into that? What was your frequency and what was your progression on that front, especially coming from having a heart that wasn't the strongest at that time?
Well, and I was worried because as crazy as it sounds, I was always worried about raising my heart rate because I was afraid like the pacemaker would like start sparking or something and I'd smoke and, it'd go, and it's a stupid fear, but going through it, it was psychological about it. And I just didn't know. They kept telling me it was going to be okay. So I took it a little easier at first, but I did the Apex at least twice a week.
Good.
And I walked every day, even on the days I do Apex. To this day, I always walk in the evening, 2 to 3 miles. And I always end the day like that. But I had lifted weights before. I had done other stuff. I mean, I have periods of my life when I've been really active and very into training, but it's been like, every decade kind of thing. So it wasn't totally foreign to me, but slowly but surely I got up to it. And I was really proud of myself. Obviously, the first time I got through all 10 up and 10 down at Apex and started going from there.
And that was probably, I mean, maybe I'm wrong in saying this, but that was probably one of your physical accomplishments that you'd had in a long time. I don't know if there's to get through the Apex up and down a pyramid after trying it in your 60s is no joke. And it's probably one of the times you really challenge yourself and start to build some confidence. Is that fair to say?
It's absolutely fair to say. I couldn't remember the last time I sweated.
Right.
If that tells you about my exercise. I mean, seriously, I was perspiring like crazy. And I'm thinking, wow, this, I have a memory of this, but it's been a while and it was a good feeling.
Let's talk about like inner self-talk, because I think our behaviors are ultimately a reflection often of our like inner world and our inner life and the kinds of thought habits and patterns we've had, our emotions. And we start these journeys. The tough thing is we're both trying to make changes in our behaviors, but we also have a mind that still is grooved with these old patterns that can be pretty negative. Like, what was your experience like with the inner mental, emotional aspect of this, and how has it kind of changed over time? Track our trajectory through that.
Yeah, I was a master of negative self-talk. I would talk to myself in words and vulgarities that I would never have said to a single person anywhere else in this world. And that's the way ultimately I got out of it after I started this program. I'm thinking, why would you say something to yourself that you wouldn't say to your worst enemy? Why are you treating yourself that way? So slowly but surely, especially, and I'll be honest, especially when you start seeing results and you start getting, you accomplish some of the things you want to accomplish and you're thinking, I can do this. I'm better than this.
Yeah.
Even now with the, if I gain a pound or something like that, I haven't had really bad negative self-talk for months. And that is such a freeing existence because it takes so much mental energy when you're negative as opposed to being positive.
For sure it does. I mean, to keep that up, and like the impression that has in your awareness and your being to like, it's almost like your mind no longer has dirty water that's constantly in there. It's like, it's more clean water. And I mean, it takes time to change that. It takes accomplishing workouts on days you don't feel like doing it. It takes losing your first 10 pounds and realizing that this is possible. And now to date, I think you've lost 50 or so. And you're
50.
Okay.
50.
That's super cool. How long was the time frame for that amount of change?
Probably the last, certainly 40 over the first 6-7 months, and then 10 or the rest of the time. So obviously it came off easier early, came off a little slower later.
Yeah.
And now it's staying around, 170 or so, which is where I'm at. I was at 220 at 5'5". That was obviously way too heavy. But now I'm working, and we can talk about this later, but I'm working with Ben about exactly where I want it to go because there's some future plans. I want to get my body fat down to a certain level, but not too low for reasons we can talk about. But
yeah, I do want to get into that and some of your adventures around the corner. That's what really inspires me when I think about my life and what I want to be in 60s. And that is possibilities and new action and the freedom that you could have after a long career. Kids are out of the house. You have the energy and the time to really like do some bucket list style things. I definitely want to get into that. But first I want to ask you about your heart. You've done a lot of Fit Father workouts to this point. What's your confidence like in your heart today? What is your heart like? Is it strong and what's your confidence in your fitness at this point?
Yeah, I'm stronger than I've ever been. I'm stronger now than I was when I was 30. There's no question about that. Now, I was probably lighter at certain points when I was 30 and probably ran a lot more than I can now. But as far as absolute strength and physique, I'll have my wife thinks it's a lot better than it used to be. So
That's
that's
awesome.
probably a good test,
Yeah.
which is good. The hard thing, for those who don't have a pacemaker, it's a very odd scenario. I mean, they have to tweak it every now and then because as your heart rate gets higher, the pacemaker has to keep up. And
Yeah.
for a while, they had to tweak it because there was a delay, and there's still a little bit of a delay. So I can be exerting myself really hard, and the pacemaker hasn't quite caught up yet. So you're out of breath earlier. It eventually catches up, but it's a little slower. And the honest thing about a pacemaker, for those who don't have them, I don't recommend them, by the way, is a young tech with a laptop computer who can, through Bluetooth, connect to your heart, and she starts adjusting my heart rate from across the room. That's a surreal kind of feeling that
I
I
bet
really
it
don't
is.
recommend. But
Wow.
so far, it hasn't hindered me at all. I refuse to let it hinder me. I'm going to march forward, and I'm thankful for every day that I have, and they tell me I can do anything, so I'm taking them up on it. I'm going to do everything.
Yeah. And I want to hear about everything in just a moment. But first, I want to hear about the nutrition plan that kind of ended up working for you. What'd you settle in on? Like, what's a day of like healthy eating or some standard stuff that you got in terms of go-to meals and the rhythm that works for you?
Very boring, but I like routine.
Yeah.
Shake in the morning. I always do my exercise in the morning. I'm up at
Yeah.
5:30. By 6:30, I'm at it, doing whatever I need to do as far as exercise is concerned. I either go to the gym or I'm at home. In the summertime, I like doing stuff at home and outside. Have my shake, go to work, come home, have a sandwich, Ezekiel bread, turkey or chicken or something like that. Turkey or chicken or something like that. Sometimes I have a snack in the middle of the afternoon, and then at home I try to do the perfect plate. I try to have a protein, a vegetable, and some kind of good healthy carb to have. That's my diet, and I'm not saying I've been perfect all the time, but I'm probably perfect 80% of the time.
Nice.
We just had a weekend birthday celebration, and I had a piece of cake, and we had some more food that I don't normally have. One thing about Fit Father Project is, and the nutrition specifically is what you asked about. You really learn about your body. You learn so much about yourself because,
Yeah.
first of all, I can tell almost when I get up in the morning whether I'm up or down without stepping on the scale. I can just feel it.
Yeah.
And when I eat bad stuff, it makes me feel bad.
Yep.
And you got to get a clue as to what really makes you feel bad or what doesn't. I could have one glass of wine in the evening, 2 glasses of wine. I won't sleep very well, and I don't feel that great the next day. It's not that I'm a lightweight. It's just that for whatever reason, that amount is something that bothers me. Same thing with a heavy carb or sugar.
Yeah.
I have that in the evening after a certain time. It's a much more difficult life. So you learn a lot about yourself and what you can regulate, what you can't, and what kind of experience you'll have depending on the food you eat.
Yeah, and I'll share personally on that because I've obviously gone through my own journey with my own health and knowing the things that are the triggers and how it works. Is there's freedom on the other side of that because a lot of these things that you just realize are no longer worth it. Like it's just off the table as options because it's just like makes you feel bad, and feeling good is ultimately what we want to do with these health routines. So it helps you stay focused without needing as much willpower because you're like, man, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm like you, like I love a good pizza, but I just know there's like pretty severe consequences, unfortunately, for me when I do that, because like wheat doesn't make me feel great in excess quantities and the cheese kind of messes me up. So it like kind of helps you steer when you get your body lean and clean, that you get this feedback loop that you're supposed to have. And then it makes your choices easier to make. So tell me about like some of because I know you have hobbies of doing some stuff with dough and stuff like that. And I think it's important for people to know that they can have this in their life and still lose 50 pounds and to a certain extent. So what's it like there?
Well, I'm a baker. I do most of the cooking in my house. Anyway, and I like to do it. It's therapeutic for me. I really like to bake. I make my own like sourdough and make my own pizza dough, and everything's from scratch. I don't buy anything, made in a factory or anything like that. But I found that the making it in and of itself is therapeutic, and quite frankly, I make it and I give it away. And I really have come to enjoy other people enjoying the food that I'm making, and I don't feel a great need to dive into it very much. I'll taste here and there just to make sure it tastes okay,
Yeah.
but nothing dramatic. My wife gets mad at me because she's like, "Yeah, you're doing great, but you're killing me. So when are you going to stop making this stuff?" So, so I bring it into the office, and
Yeah.
they're all happy whenever I come in with stuff, and they're all worried about me retiring and saying, "Oh, what's going to happen when you leave? Are you still going to bring stuff?" I said, "No, I'm not."
That's funny. Hey, it's Dr. Ray. I want to quickly pause this episode to thank you for listening to this Fit Father podcast. I am just blown away at how amazing this podcast has become. I had no idea when I started FFP around 10 years ago that it would grow into such an impactful mission. And I want to let you know that I am so grateful to be connected to you in this lifetime. And on behalf of me and my entire team, we are so grateful to be in your life, helping you get and stay healthier for your family. That's what I want to share. Just some gratitude from my heart to yours. Let's get back to today's episode. And I want to ask you about your wife, because I know she observed you over a long period of time trying all these different diets. And like, now you found Fit Father, especially through the second time, and you've worked it. Like, what does she say? What has she seen? She's known you for almost 4 decades now. And like,
Right.
what's her response been like to this change that you've kind of made and how you stuck to it?
It's a funny story. She's been outstanding. She's totally supportive of everything that I've done. She's very proud of me, which is obviously very helpful. I will tell you that early on, it kind of gives you an indication of my history. I'm sure other guys have had this too, and that is I was getting rid of all the old, what I call the fat clothes, getting rid of them all. And her comment at the first was, I was early into this. She goes, "You think maybe we want to keep some of those just in case?" And that was perfectly smart answer for her because it costs money to buy clothes, and she had seen my history. And I said, "Yep, I understand why you're saying that, but absolutely not. It's going." So, but then we were going through stuff, and I talked to him about the podcast, and I go in the Facebook group, and I found, well, Chris Vincent was a perfect example. He was this really perfect example for reasons I'll tell you. So I heard his podcast. And Chris and I are about the same height. We met in Sedona when I was at the retreat, so I met him in real life. So we're about the same height. He started about the same weight, and his goal was my goal. So it was like I was symbiotic. I felt very connected to him, even if I hadn't met him. So I pulled him up into the Facebook group, and I told my wife, I said, "Sharon, come over here. Look at this guy, Chris Vincent. Look at this before and his after." And his after, he was buff. And only his abs showing. She goes, "So you're telling me you're going to look like that?" And I said, "Well, I hope." He goes, "Well, you should keep doing whatever you're doing." So I said, "Okay, that's enough of Chris Vincent. I'm going to close the computer down now."
Yeah.
So I told Chris that, and boy, he was laughing about it, but it was one of those funny moments. So yeah, Joe, she's been extremely supportive. I mean, I first started seeing abs, and she would scream from across the room. She'd go, "You have abs? What is that?" And so she's always been really great.
That's really beautiful. How about your sons? I know they're not living at home and seeing you, but like, I mean, I gotta think like a couple of them, if they're not on their routines, they're seeing dad like with some mojo in his 60s, and like that does something to a young man to see an old man still on it. So I'd love to hear about that.
It does, and they're proud of me, and they don't really say too much about me. They'll give me a crack every now and then. But I did something funny because I said one of my son lives in Nashville, and I actually, this came from Chris Vincent because he told me about it. The Spartan race is going to be held in Nashville, 5K with a sprint race. So I told my son, "Yeah, I'm going to do that. Do you want to go? You want to join my team?" And he's like, "Well, okay, I guess. Okay. I'm going to be in your town. I'm going to be in your town, Luke. So you should." So I got him and my other son. Well, I heard them talking one time, like several weeks later. They're like, "We cannot let him beat us. We have to get in shape." So, and one of them is in pretty good shape already. One of them has a ways to go, but he actually joined the gym, and he's been going because I think he's deathly afraid that I'm going to make him look bad, which I would never do anyway. But I think it's going to be, it's next month. It's going to be a great experience for all of us, and it'll be a fun time. But they are a little worried.
That's awesome and good. It's nice that you can motivate them from afar just by doing your thing. And I mean, that's still a really strong dad move, right? I mean, just being able to have some positive influence just by showing up with a certain standard and raising them a little bit. And hopefully they're able to not go down the path that you went down of like getting into a dark place for many years, and they can just, eat a little healthier too.
Right.
Okay. Let's get into your future because I think it's really interesting, the stuff that you want to do as you're moving into retirement. And I want people to have a picture of what's possible and the kind of adventure that you could have. Talk to me about some of your pursuits when, you do get into full retirement and what you want to get up to in the outdoor activities.
Yeah, and one thing I don't want to do in retirement is be inactive. Even on vacations, I've always been an active vacation person. The notion of sitting on the beach in a chair drives me crazy. It always has. So I've always been much more active. So my retirement hopefully is going to be really no different. I'd like to do lots of things that are active. Right now, the plan for next summer in mid-July is I'm going to Colorado. I do a lot of long distance backpacking. And next summer, I'm going to be going to Colorado to Denver and starting the Colorado Trail, which is about a 500-mile trail from Denver to Durango. And all of it's above 10,000 feet.
Wow.
I promise to wear the FFP shirt at my highest point, make a big picture of the whole deal if I get there, which I hope I will. But so that's my next big goal as far as training is concerned. And I think I mentioned earlier that I'm already gotten down the line saying, Dan, I need your help to do X, Y, and Z to get this done. Because in 6 weeks, I'll lose 20 pounds.
Right.
Just because, on average, I'll be burning between 5,000 and 8,000 calories a day.
Yeah.
Because I'll be hiking 15 miles at altitude with a pack and up and down mountains and everything else. So I can't eat that much. There will be no perfect place, unfortunately, probably on that trail.
Perfect freeze dries.
Perfect freeze dried with as many calories as I can possibly consume, and I'll still lose weight. So, 60, well, I'll be 64 then. I'm a little nervous about it only because I want to be as strong as I can. I've had a couple injuries, but I'm working through those. But with Ben's help and Ben's help, I mean, there are the FFP programs that I'm operating. That's what we're doing, just maybe in a little different order. And as it gets closer, we're going to change things up a little bit.
Yeah.
And then also with some yoga, because just to make sure that I'm adequately stretching and trying to keep those muscles of I've actually talked to your buddy at Manflow Yoga, and he set me up with a program to try to work on some things that get tight when I backpack.
Yep.
So hopefully with all that stuff planned, I'm already planning. I've already got equipment set out. I've already been on some shakedown hikes. So this is going to be a long process, but I think it's a really great goal to have and something that will keep me motivated for the next year for sure.
I mean, that's a real adventure. I mean, I don't, it's going to be amazing to me, the kind of stuff you're going to be able to see and obviously accomplish as you're going on that trail. Are you doing anything like for cardio wise, like on a step mill or anything like that, especially as it gets into winter? Because I think a step mill with a pack would be a really good idea. I'm doing step mill pack. I'm doing a lot of rucking with the pack. I was out this weekend, just did a 10-mile ruck with the pack that I would carry with the weight I think that I would be carrying. Went with my dog just to test out everything, make sure the equipment working, but also, test the legs, making sure I'm not too sore. Yep.
But yeah, I'll be doing a lot of steps. The only thing I'm not going to be able to adjust to is altitude. But my wife and I are going to be out there for like 5 or 6 days before the hike begins at 8,000 feet or so to try to get acclimated to that. But if my legs are strong and, no injuries, I am stubborn enough and I'm confident enough that I'll get through this.
Love it. I don't know if you've looked into this, but, obviously the Fit Father breath work or breathing like Wim Hof style could really help you with just oxygenation and playing around with that as like a true part of your training, a couple times per week. But it's something I would recommend.
All right. I'll look into that for sure.
Nice. All right. So, I mean, it's really exciting, certainly to get out there and start to do some adventures and to use this body. And I want to know, did you actually have a dream to do the Colorado Trail, or did it come after you got fit, or was it a thing that you had like for a long-standing desire, like from you were very young?
Not from when I was very young. I took up backpacking in earnest again, probably 15, 20 years ago. And I'm right on the Appalachian Trail, which is on the East Coast from Georgia to Maine. It runs within 5 miles of where I live.
Yeah.
So I've been on that trail a lot. I've probably done 500 miles of that trail over time. No more than 7 days on trail. But that's a 2,200 mile trail or 2,000 mile trail. And that takes 5 months. And I've always wanted to do it through hike, but 5 months away from my wife and family just didn't seem like something I really wanted to do, even if I could do it. The Colorado Trail was something. I have an uncle that's done Appalachian Trail twice, and then he did the Colorado Trail, and he was 72.
Wow.
At the time. And the Colorado Trail, I've always loved the West. I've loved the Rockies. The Appalachian Trail is a lot of in forest kind of hiking, very humid, Colorado. I don't have to tell you where you live, but Colorado's very dry.
Yeah.
The expansive, you're above tree line a lot. I've always loved that part of the
Yeah.
world. And it's just a different kind of adventure. So I decided, given the length of that trail and its location, that was the best option for me.
Nice. I love it. I'm excited for you. Now, because you went to the Fit Father retreat, I'd love to ask you about what your experience was like there. I mean, maybe meeting me in person and meeting some of the other guys. Obviously, shout out to Chris Vincent. I know that was a special man for you to meet for many, many reasons. But like, what was your experience like at the retreat?
Oh, it was just outstanding. Just outstanding. Yeah, meeting you, obviously, that was surreal. And Ben. And I met Kat briefly. She couldn't come with us, but I
Yeah.
remember her blue hair very well. She's, I don't know how she's so upbeat all the time, but she
I know.
barely is.
She doesn't fake it. It's real.
It's Chris. And I met Craig and of course,
Yeah.
and Ron Keatsman also, who I had followed a lot, and Chris and others. But it's much different getting to know those guys. They were so positive. It's like we'd known each other forever. And I still keep in touch with those guys. And it's just a very, very supportive group, all with the same goals. We help each other. And that's the thing about you talk about Sedona, which was great because I got to see people in person. But my first contact was with the Facebook group.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, Dr. A, men don't have a place to ask those kinds of questions and get that kind of
Right.
support. They don't.
Right.
No other guy says to another guy, "Hey, do you think I look fat in these pants?"
Yeah.
Or anything else like that. I mean, we never talk about those kinds of weaknesses. And we are, a lot of us are alone in that regard. We just don't,
Yeah.
that's not the kind of stuff we talk about with other guys. But, Facebook and Sedona, it was a freewheeling, non-judgmental, supportive group that is is the genius on the Facebook. That's genius because
Yeah.
it gives everybody an opportunity to talk. I've never seen a negative comment on that in that group,
Yeah.
which is astounding in today's day and age.
I know it's like the best of like social media is honestly in that group. And I think what's so cool too is like everyone there are like we're intimate strangers, and we're not strangers in not in the real sense of being strangers, but like it's not like your best friends or the local people you might see where you might be hesitant to say things. It's like a group of men gathered around a common purpose that are willing to be super vulnerable. And I don't need to know exactly how and where you grew up or what exactly you're doing, but like I see you. Like I see you in your authenticity of trying. I am here too for the exact same thing. So there's like a bond that is formed in that kind of culture that is super powerful and therapeutic and something you can come back to. And I'm glad that you take a lot of value in that and that you've added so much value. And I guess you being here on this podcast is another way of you giving back to our community. So I really appreciate you doing that.
Well, it's my pleasure. I think, that's as much as anything, the most fun part about this now is to the extent I've had any success, I try to encourage those people who are just starting. I even do it in the gym. I mean, there's some guys there that clearly are trying. They're there at 6:30 in the morning, and they got a trainer and they're trying to work on things. And I see them regularly. They're not a Fit Father Project, but I went up to, a couple of these guys, I went up to and say, you know what? You know what everybody else is doing while you're here? They're still in bed. So congratulations, you're doing great work. And
Yeah.
and I think that really helps people move along. And for those guys who haven't done Sedona and have an opportunity to do that, I highly recommend it. It's a life experience that you should not go without if you can do it.
That's awesome. Now, last couple questions. One is I want to ask you for some specific advice for guys who are maybe starting this program around 60. What would you give to some of the advice to those guys starting out? And then the second part will be advice you have for veterans who've been around the block a little bit and maybe ever reached their first phase goals. Like what kind of things you think are going to be good to stay motivated or to continue connecting with the program, et cetera.
Right. With respect to the new folks, planning is, in my view, everything. And I still, to this day, I think I just shared this with one of the Facebook guys that was new, and he was trying to get through the day and not being very successful, or get through the week. And I think I told him, I said, well, plan the next hour. What are you going to do in the next hour? And then what are you going to do in the next hour? I said, because I still have a journal, I have it right here. And every Sunday, I write down exactly what I'm going to do on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and the next Sunday, and what I'm going to eat. so I know what exercise program I'm going to be on that day, and that's the way I try to keep myself straight.
Yep.
So for the newbies, plan your day and you write it down. It's hard. It's harder to ignore it, and put your gym clothes out. Go set the same time, and every day that you're going to work out. For me, it's early morning. I'm not telling anybody else what time to find their best time. Their best time is their best time. Once I've figured out a long time ago. Once I got home from work, I'm drained. I can't.
Yeah.
Other than walking, I'm not doing any hard workouts. But at 5 or 5:30 in the morning, when nobody else is up, I can do whatever I need to do and get it out of the way. So that's for me. So whether it's day by day, and if you're really struggling, hour by hour, that's the way I think that you can do it. I also think on the Facebook group, to the extent that people get caught up in it, they start comparing themselves to other folks.
Yeah.
Some guys are losing, some ungodly amounts of weight in a month. I did not. I mean, I think I lost 10 or 12 pounds the first month. And you see people, thinking, "Oh, I'm not losing enough weight. I'm not, these other folks are losing way more weight. I'm at a plateau." Everybody fights their own fight, guys, and it's something that you have to do on a daily basis. You're going to have your victories. Don't compare. It's just like going to the gym. Don't worry about what the guy's lifting next to you. Don't worry about that. You just do your thing, and you'll be successful. It just takes some people more time than others. The body's a mystery. I have no idea. I think I do everything right sometimes, and I'll get on the scale and go, "How did I gain a pound? How is it even possible?" But next day, it's different. So it's something that just you just got to figure out on your own and just keep going.
Nice.
As far as guys have been on it for a while, the only thing I can do is tell you that I have to worry about things I can control and things I can't control. Sometimes I can't control that I have an injury, but what I can control is that I do a different exercise.
Yeah.
I have a frozen shoulder, so I can't do the full bar squat because I can't reach my arm back far enough to grab the bar. So we have machines at the gym that I can do other things, or I can do a dumbbell squat, or I can do a sumo squat, or whatever the case. So there's always alternatives. I tore a muscle in my my butt and hip, and it was in physical therapy for a while, so I couldn't run, but I could walk without pain, or I could go on the Stairmaster, or I could jump rope, or I could go on my rower in the basement, or do whatever the case may be. So the fact that you can't do something doesn't mean you can't do anything. And you just, especially as you get older, just injuries are a fact of life. I don't know what else to explain it, guys. It just happens.
Yeah.
You may be doing everything right. It just happens. And the other thing about injuries, you're not 20 anymore. So an injury that took me 2 days to get over when I was 25 takes me seems like 2 months to get over now. It just, I don't know why, but it does. And it's frustrating at times, but you just got to accept it and do the best you can.
That's a really good answer. I think it's like taking what could be seen as an apparent obstacle or limitation and just still moving forward in spite of it with intelligence and doing what you can. And I mean, I think that's the mindset that serves you, not just in your 6th decade of life, but in your 7th decade of life. It's going to probably be changes of stuff you can and can't do. And then, as you continue to work on improving and getting into new things like the yoga, I think you're going to come back a changed man from the hiking and the walking. I mean, your body's going to be different. And I think it's going to be different in a good way, from having done that type of experience and the adaptations that are going to happen. Who knows what opens up for us? We don't know. But again, that back to like bringing it back to every single day, we can assess where we're honestly at and still make forward progress and see limitations as a chance to get creative.
Yeah, OSM is on for after the hike. That's what I've decided, because I'll have lost fat.
You're going to be lean.
Probably need to build muscle. I'll be really lean, and I'll just be ready to knock it out. And that's the one thing I really like about it, because I'm in phase 4 at this point.
Yeah.
And I told Ben this. I said, I consider phase 4 an exercise buffet.
Yeah.
I just pick and choose the things that really work for me, and I can totally switch off one thing and do a different thing the next week. And I like that kind of variety. For instance, now I'm obviously, for reasons that I explained earlier, I'm throwing an extra leg exercise in where I maybe wouldn't before, but wouldn't be part of the program. But that's good. That's those are the options I have now, and it's good to be able to pick.
That's awesome, Bill. Well, this was a pleasure. My ending question for you is, what does it mean for you now to be a fit father? And then we'll let you go.
Well, being a fit father for me is coming to the realization that when I decide what I'm trading my time for, as valuable as it is, that I'm trading it for something really important, and that is me. My health and fitness, when I'm healthy and fit and happy and confident, it affects everybody around me in a positive way. My family, my friends, my work, and my children, obviously, with respect to how they see me, and it's important to how I see myself. Being fit father is respecting yourself and being the very best version, how old you are, no matter how old you are, being the best version of that you can be, even though it's not 30. 60 is okay. 65 is okay. I'm good with that, and I'll just do the best I can with what I got.
I love it. And I'm going to actually like semi-publicly hold you to a promise. And that's that after you come back from your hike, that you come back and tell us about it. I'm sure you'll make some posts, but maybe even after OSM, I'd love to have you back on, because I know you're going to have plenty of stories, and it'll be really cool for people to listen to this one and then hear what you have to say after doing the kind of things that are around the corner.
I would love to do it. I'll probably do some YouTube videos I'll send to people too, so that
Awesome.
they can get a feel for it as it goes on. But yeah, I would love that, because that would mean I was successful. So that would be greater.
Heck yeah. Well, Bill, thank you for your time today. I appreciate it so much, and for being an amazing fit father. So excited to get this episode out to our community, to share the inspiration that you once received in your early stages. You're passing it on now. This is the circle of life, my friend, and I'm grateful you're a part of our community.
Great seeing you, Dr. A. Thank you.